Leslie from Deeply Southern Home. I write about DIY, home interiors, budget-friendly makeovers, and home renovation. Today I'm talking about our complete makeover of our fireplace. Today's tile install, I'm using a white marble from Jeffrey Court. The link will be in the bio below. I'm going to walk you through everything from the demo to what we uncovered to removing the mantle, everything you need to know to completely transform your fireplace. To complete the demo, we used a tile chisel mortising bit and a 3-pound club hammer. We've done a lot of demo and we found that these tools work best. And right about now, you're probably wondering why this demo looks different than the before. And that's because for a while, I had the tile covered with temporary wallpaper. And it's not because the black granite was ugly. It was just in our particular situation, the black granite was too dark in our room with not a lot of light. And we thought we might as well keep it on because it might help contain some of the dust of the demo. You'll notice here that he's showing kind of the finer points of where to hit the tile and then where to pull back. One of the things we were completely surprised by was how little the mantle was attached to the wall. Had we known it's not uncommon for mantles to only be attached with 1 or 2 nails, we would have pulled it off to begin with. And rest assured, yours is probably the same way.
The mantle was really only attached with 2 nails.
As I investigated further, I found that the cleat wasn't even attached in the stud in all of the right places. So this is my favorite little stud finder. I don't know, it's probably under $10. It's Amazon. It's a magnet that finds the screws on the drywall into the stud. Now that the tile is gone, I discovered a few things. The mortar was not coming off of the drywall, and so I decided that it will need to all come off in order to create a very strong substrate for the tile.
I'm going to level this out and get off the construction adhesive and just get everything nice and level for the new tile. It is not as thick as the granite that was here, and so that's actually a good thing so that it's...
Oh, removal is going really well. I wanted to be extremely cautious over here because I know that the gas line comes from over here. So I very gingerly cut a little to make sure that I couldn't see the gas line. The last thing I did was use a scraper blade to scrape off all the silicone that they had used in addition to back buttering the tiles that went around here. All of my prep work is done. My mortar bed is clean. My drywall is back up. I hung a cleat for that top row of tiles, and I figured out where the tiles were going to land in relation to that cleat. I'm using modified thin set and a V-notch trowel because I'm using a mosaic mesh tile. As with any tile job, your first step is to clean the surface and dampen where your tiles will be applied. Of course, you want to make sure that your very first set of tile is completely level because you're going to be building off of that as you go along. When you're using a V-notch trowel, just like any trowel, you want to make sure you're getting full contact with the mortar. Make sure that all of those V-notches are completely formed. And then I like to use a scraper blade to remove any excess mortar from the edge and inside the grooves. Generally, a mosaic tile uses a 1/16 spacer, but I also like to have little wedge spacers in case I need to level out the tile. Now that I'm at the cleat, I removed one of the tiles from the mosaic sheet, and then I'm going to, of course, apply mortar and apply the tile, and then fill that in later once I remove the cleat from the stud.
course, I used a tile saw to create a clean edge along the sides of the fireplace. And then at the top where I'm going to meet two sheets of tile together, I didn't trim that off. You can see that up there at the top. You'll see later on in the video that I went ahead and started using mortar first and then applied the construction adhesive because it was supposed to dry rather quickly. So this little piece you see here, I did differently later. Now I'm going back to the other side where there is a seam on the drywall, and you can see that I have a mesh tape there, and I'm going to make sure that I cover that with mortar first before I begin doing any other work for the tile. As I worked my way from the bottom end to the top of the fireplace, I noticed that I had a little bit of a gap that I needed to allow for where the two met. And once it's grouted, you won't even be able to see it. Then I was ready to move on to the mortar bed at the bottom. Don't forget to wet down your surface before you apply your mortar, and then keep working along, making sure that it's level and that there's plenty of mortar underneath the tiles. So now I have all of my mortar cleaned out and it's vacuumed, and I've taped around, so just best to tape it, and also tape your edges. If you have a hardwood floor or carpet, make sure you tape the edges of that. When you grout, you want to make sure you wet down your tile, and then you're going to spread your grout with a rubber float. I also try to make sure I wear gloves, and if I'm struggling with getting it smooth enough with the trowel, like this one was a little old, I used a gloved hand. Just make sure your hand is gloved because the grout will eat your fingers. You want to make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions, especially for removing the grout. Some have you wait a few minutes and some want you to remove it right away. You want to make sure that you clean the surface well with your sponges, and then my best tip is to use a microfiber cloth to get rid of any grout haze. Now for the finishing touch, it's time to reattach your mantle. We decided to add a new cleat that was stronger, and of course, we made a few modifications. I cover all those details in another tutorial. Look for those in the link below or on the screen.
I feel confident this is something that you can do, and if you have all your materials gathered in advance, it's definitely something you can do in a weekend. Thank you for watching. I hope this was extremely helpful, and I hope you're inspired to make over your fireplace.